When Hannah first moved into her grandmother's old farmhouse outside of Salem, Massachusetts, she didn't expect much more than creaking floors and drafty windows. The place had been empty for nearly 10 years, and she was determined to bring it back to life. She worked days at the small-town library and spent her evenings cleaning, painting, and trying to make the house feel less like a relic and more like a home. The one thing she couldn't bring herself to move was the massive antique mirror in the upstairs hallway. It stretched from floor to ceiling, framed in blackened wood, carved with intricate designs that seemed to twist and writhe if she stared too long. It looked like it belonged in a museum or a haunted house. Her grandmother had always kept it covered with a heavy drape, muttering that some things aren't meant to be looked at too long. At first, Hannah laughed it off. A mirror was just a mirror, but when she finally pulled the covering down, something unsettled her. The glass was oddly tinted, with faint streaks that looked too dark to be scratches, almost like stains. Late one night, as she passed by, she froze. For a split second, she thought she saw something moving in the reflection. Not her, something behind her. But when she turned, the hallway was empty. She told herself it was exhaustion. Moving into an old house, working long hours, her mind was just playing tricks. But the more she looked into that mirror, the harder it was to shake the feeling that it was looking back at her. Things escalated the following week. Hannah was brushing her hair one evening when she noticed a faint red smear on the glass, right where her reflection's throat would be. She touched her own neck. Clean. She wiped the mirror with a rag. Still there. Dark rust-colored, like dried blood. The next morning, the smear was gone. By now, Hannah was unnerved enough to call her friend Jenna over. Jenna was blunt, practical, not one to fall for ghost stories. They laughed about it at first, until Jenna suddenly stiffened. "Do you see that?" she whispered. In the mirror's reflection, the hallway behind them looked darker than it should have been. The wallpaper looked torn, shredded, as if the house in the mirror was decaying while the real one stood intact. And for just a heartbeat, a shadowed figure flickered across the glass. Neither of them slept that night. Hannah began digging into the farmhouse's history. Old town records revealed that the house once belonged to a family in the 1920s. The father had died violently, some said by his own hand, others whispered murder. The mother and child vanished shortly after. But buried in the archives was one detail that made Hannah's blood run cold. Police at the time noted an unusual amount of blood found near a large mirror in the home. The next night, the mirror bled. It started as faint streaks, then spread into fresh rivulets that dripped down the glass and pooled on the wooden floor. Hannah stumbled back, horrified, as the reflection in the glass warped. Instead of her own face, she saw a pale man with hollow eyes and blood smeared across his mouth. He raised his hand, and so did her reflection. But when she moved away, the figure in the mirror didn't. That was when the whispering began. At first, it was faint, a hiss, like breath against the glass. Then words formed. "Stay with me." She slammed the drape back over the mirror and fled to her bedroom. But the next morning, the fabric was on the floor, the mirror uncovered again. Hannah didn't last another week. She packed what she could and left the farmhouse for good, vowing never to return. But the mirror didn't stay behind. When she moved into her small apartment in Boston, she opened a box of clothes, and there it was, the same blackened frame, the same warped glass, leaning against the wall as though it had been waiting for her. That night, she heard the whisper again, closer than ever. "You can't leave." The streak of blood returned, spreading wider, dripping faster. Hannah screamed, but the neighbors only heard silence. When a maintenance worker entered her apartment days later, he found the place empty. No sign of struggle. No Hannah. Just a single, antique mirror standing in the middle of the room, its glass smeared with fresh, crimson stains. And if you look closely, some say you can still see her face inside, pounding soundlessly against the other side of the glass, begging to be let out.